Okay, so here we are, LogiPharma 2025. I'm with Oscar from DHL. Would you just introduce yourself very quickly?
Happy to. So Oscar de Bok, I'm CEO of DHL Supply Chain and part of the board of DHL Group. But also very importantly, I'm within the board driving our health logistics product and brand and our overall growth in the healthcare sector.
Great. Okay. So I've just sat through your fireside chat. Very interesting discussion.
Thank you.
Would you just give us a recap of what you talked about while you were in there?
Yeah, I'll pick some points and then maybe you can add if I missed some, right? But I think one of the main points there is that agility, speed, use of data is really important, and but at the same time, you also need to make sure that you have the right infrastructure to be able to actually respond to that.
Yes.
Right. So, so the investments that we're making as DHL of $2 billion in the coming period to make sure that we have the infrastructure for both the healthcare sector of today, but also the healthcare sector of tomorrow, is crucial, and that indeed comes back to really having end-to-end change on multi-temperature that are certified and under control, both on land, air, ocean, but specifically the air connections, airport-based terminals. And the other point, which is important, is the acquisition of CRYOPDP that we've done, because that's exactly one of the feedbacks that we got from customers, that they really like us to see, to have things under control, in hands towards those end-to-end complicated supply chains. And obviously, when you talk about cell and gene therapy or clinical trials, which is where CRYOPDP in multi-temperature is specialized in, that is obviously one of the important elements of the healthcare sector of tomorrow.
Right. And you were saying that you have in-house customer steering committees. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, exactly. Because one of the things that is really important is that the healthcare sector is a sector in transition, right? And therefore for us it's really important. So we have this customer advisory board where we sit down with our healthcare customers and where we actually discuss about what they need, what their needs are, and and on that basis we set our investment strategy. So that is really based. So it's a really good interaction on that, and you can see I've been doing that now for so 2.5 years, and where you can really see is that some of the investments that we're making now are actually coming out of those type of discussions with the customers,
which you'd had a couple of years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so sitting through the fireside chat, I had one question, which was, what are you learning through this optimization process that you were talking about? And I think maybe you gave a couple of sort of day-to-day examples.
Oh, you mean so that was about AI, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I gave us examples there is that when we talk about data and AI and generative AI, there's several levels. You have if you look at the supply chain sector as a whole, and specific companies like us obviously sit on a lot of information and a lot of data. And what I advised obviously the audience in is that make sure to use aggregate data to take decisions, not only the data of the one company, and we can actually help with that perspective. Then we spoke about AI, generative AI specifically, and also the whole robotic solution on the basis of that. And I gave some examples on how in processes. So, for instance, this was a very simple example about the appointments on the delivery point of delivery that we are now running successful pilots with to have that robotized, and that the benefit of that is not so much the people that you replace by making those calls, but it's the fact that suddenly within 1 hour you can make all the appointments that otherwise would have taken the whole week. That means that you can actually optimize your process way faster because of that, and that's a far bigger impact than the actual impact of having a robot doing the calls. It's very simple, but I think very important example of the impact that AI will have in optimizations of supply chains overall in the coming years.
Okay, great. Okay, and a couple more questions, if that's okay. What leadership qualities do you think are most critical in navigating today's complex supply chain environment?
I think one is to be agile, but I think that's an obvious one, right? Is to be able to, but also to be able to prioritize and stay focused. To be able to read data, but there's so much in data, you can easily get lost, right? To make sure that you stay focused on what is really important and have that data to be able to then be able to take the fast decisions when they come, when they're needed. Do scenario planning, of course, because you need to be prepared for the unexpected.
Yeah.
The point that I often make, if you take the past 5 years, every 6 months there was something unexpected. And I've been saying that over the past 5 years, and I also didn't know what was going to come. And every time there's something new, and we're in the middle of something now as well.
Right.
Exactly. And it always comes down to supply chains. Right? It always comes down to how you then have to optimize, change, react, respond, have safety nets in your supply chains, which I think is the exciting part.
Yep.
Right? But is obviously you need to look at this. So your question was from a leadership perspective: use data, stay focused, be agile, and stay positive.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question. If you could send one message to the next generation of supply chain professionals, what would your message be?
To the next generation, well, one, it's super exciting. We've never had so much data, robotics, fast innovation. And when you innovate at scale. Don't get lost in some little thingy which is very interesting. Innovate at scale, because supply chain, it's all about scale. And if you can actually innovate at larger scale, you make a difference.
Okay, interesting. Okay, one more question. Do you think events like LogiPharma are important for advancing industry collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. Because as I said, we have this customer advisory board that obviously is independent on LogiPharma, but it shows that the interaction with our healthcare and our pharma customers is really important. Just as the interaction between our pharma customers is very important, because that drives innovation, that drives open thinking. Plus, to take the right decision, we need to also use each other's experience, right? Specifically in a sector in transition as the healthcare sector is.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today to talk to us and our audience, and it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Much.
Thank you.